Guys, and welcome back to the Super Meat Boy Warp Zone walkthrough. We're going to do Chapter 5 today, starting with 5-1, The Witness. And it's fine to use Meat Boy for this one. Now, in Chapter 5, all of these warp zones are A, hard to get, and the levels in them are almost without fail incredibly difficult. Each level is not only hard, but also long, and yes, I know that's what she said. But basically, they demand perfection. You just saw me get the warp zone there. Its location is pretty obvious. All you gotta do is make sure you get to it quick. So this is, to date, the hardest warp zone we've seen in the game, without question. And you'll notice it's also the first one that I've actually not gotten all of the bandages on. I know where they are, I just don't have the frustration threshold required to perfect the level enough to get it. So this part, just careful jumping, very careful jumping. Things get tricky after the next obstacle, so once you get in here, just jump over these spikes. Again, nothing we haven't seen before. Get the key, jump over the spikes. But starting here, you want to be very careful. What you want to do is jump on the wall, and then let yourself slide. Don't try to jump too far off the wall, or it's going to be impossible for you to make the angle required to fit between those two saws that are coming down. So the second level, you can see there's a bandage there just to my right. What you do is you get to the top of the level, get a key, then come back down, then go back up. And that right there is one of the obstacles that you would not think is a serious problem, but it really is for me, and I've lost countless lives landing on top of those spikes that are pointed sideways, but I'll try to avoid it. There we go. So after that, this level is actually not so bad. It's still pretty tough, but I'd say it's on par with a level that you might see in the actual Rapture. The light world, anyway. The dark world is just completely unforgiving. So there's the key and the passage I would take to go down if I wanted to get the bandage. But after probably like 45 minutes of trying, I just decided, you know what, forget it. I'll just get it later. So this level is actually, again, not too bad if you have patience. The end of the level is where it gets a little tricky, and it reminds me of kind of like a little version of the first level from the kids' warp zone. You can see it right here. Usually that part I'm fine, but this part I mess up. Let's say 2/3 of the time, and you'll see why I use that number momentarily. So again, one of the biggest piss-offs here is the fact that whenever you die, you've got so much more level to redo. It's not like one of the earlier levels where, you know, if you mess up, you only have 10 seconds or so you have to redo. On these ones, you have up to a full minute. And it doesn't get any better from here on out, but this is, these are the last warps in the game, so you can understand why they'd be tricky. And I just bit the dust again. I hope to give you guys a little bit of perverse entertainment here anyway, because until now I've edited out most of my deaths, but now you get to see them in full force as my frustration builds. But I think I'll probably be successful this time. When the pressure's on, I tend to be a pretty good Meat Boy player. Not that I know how it ends or anything. Alright, so there's that warp zone complete. Practice on that one. That's extremely tricky. So now we move on to 10 horns, and on this one, we're going to use Ogmo. With Ogmo, super easy warp zone to get to. You just jump up at the top here, and just keep double jumping until you get to the warp zone. Only tricky because you can't see it with the default camera. So this warp zone is called Sunshine Island, and compared to the last one, actually not nearly as bad. Still hard, but the levels are not on the same difficulty scale in the least. Yep, so you're just gonna jump up here, and here comes the trickiest obstacle. You've got to get down this column of saws, get the key, and then get back up. And hopefully, yeah, that's not so bad. That level is relatively easy in the context of Super Meat Boy. This one is probably the hardest one in the set. And I die constantly for stupid reasons, and you'll probably see one here. Generally, yeah, I just walk into the saw thrower. But generally what you want to do on this one, when you get to that center bucket there, is remove as many of the dirt blocks on one side as you can so that you have a clear path to jump up when you're coming up after you get the key. That's very important. And there's another trick to the level, and I will explain it once I get that key and we start moving back down towards Bandage Girl. So yeah, just avoid the saws. This should really be a no-brainer. I'm just playing poorly at this point. Yeah, so you get out, then do not try to jump on those lock boxes that existed. Just jump straight to this thing and then wall jump over to Bandage Girl. it's almost impossible to make it to those lockboxes before they are removed. So in this one, a couple tricks. When you're coming out of that first door, or first dirt gate, I guess, remove as few as the blocks as possible, so in case you fall down, you can use them to get back up, because if you get rid of all of them, it's going to be very hard for you to get back up. Other than that, you can probably figure this one out for yourself. It's pretty much a no-brainer. Just avoid the spikes, yeah. Easy enough, right? So that warp zone, relatively easy, not too bad. But now we move on to the Dark World warp zone, of course located on the very last level, and we're going to use Tim for this one. Tim is not necessary for this level, but his ability to rewind time actually is just good on this level as a whole, because it means when a saw is coming for him, he has the ability to rewind, and while he's rewinding, he's invulnerable to the saw, so if it's coming for him, he can get out of the way, as you just saw right there. So there's your Tim tip for the day as well. Had a little trouble getting up there, and then just jumped into the saw. But yes, in general, your method here is going to be run over here, hit this thing, which is going to cause the gate around the warp zone to disappear, but only for a certain amount of time, so you've got to be pretty quick getting up here. And again, by the time you actually will have gotten to this level, you will have the skills to do this level quickly. It's really not possible to do it slowly because of the saws following you. Unless, of course, you miss a jump like that. It was just a little bit too quick for the game, actually. So now we get to the final warp zone. It's a nice little title screen here. It's an homage to an indie game called Sleep is Death that I really like, really creative. But you can look into that on your own. Let's keep it Meat Boy related. So the trick on these levels, they're all fan related. The trick on this level in particular is always making sure you don't jump too high up on the wall. Because where you jump on the wall is going to determine how close you get to those fans. And you want to get close enough that they'll blow you upwards, but not so close that they cut you up, obviously. So that was just basically practice and figuring out where to land on the walls in order to execute those wall jumps appropriately. Now in this level, the fans aren't your problem, it's just saw jumping puzzles. So I'd say this one, relatively speaking, is actually pretty easy, at least within the context of this particular warp zone. The next level is a serious problem, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Just, you know, take your time on these. And again, if I had one tip for the fans, I'd say come in a little bit high on them. It's better than come in high than come in low and actually accidentally get chopped up. Yeah, so just get up here, get to Bandage Girl, and then we'll move on to level 1-3. And this looks very familiar for anyone who's seen me do the first half of Cotton Alley. This is actually by far my worst level on the first half of Cotton Alley, almost exactly replicated here. And yes, you can see me bite the dust, and that's going to happen pretty frequently if you ever see me play this level. The trick, again, is to make sure you're coming in low on those fans. Because what you want to do is not have a ton of downward velocity when you land on them, otherwise you're going to get chopped up. And this is harder than it looks, trust me. Once you get to here, not so bad, but it took me a long time and a lot of practice to get that fan jump down appropriately. Alright, so thank you for being with me on this warp zone guide. See you later.